891, the price of a camel is 5 uqiyas. But in Sahih al-Muslim 103893, the price of a camel is 2 uqiyas. But in Sahih al-Muslim 103895, the price of a camel is 4 dinars. So what's the price of a camel according to Muhammad? Well, it depends which hadith you read. Why do the hadiths have such contradictions inside of them? Let me give you another example. How old was Muhammad? According to Bukhari, 456 and 456 747 and 456 748. He was 60 years old. But according to Sahih al-Bukhari, 558242 and 559742, Muhammad was 63 years old. So how old was Muhammad when he died? Your hadiths give different answers. How long did Muhammad stay in Mecca after the revelation was given? According to Bukhari, 456 747 and 456 748, Muhammad stayed in Mecca for 10 years. But according to Bukhari, 558190 and 559741, Muhammad stayed in Mecca for 13 years. So was it 10 or was it 13? How old was Muhammad when he died? We've already talked about that. But we have another answer. Was it 60? Was it 63? Or was it 65? Because according to Sahih al-Muslim 305805, he was 65 years old. Here's another contradiction in the hadith. In Sahih al-Bukhari, gold cannot be bartered for silver except if it is from hand to hand and in equal amount. And you see that in Sahih al-Bukhari 334334. However, in Sahih al-Bukhari 334388, there are no restrictions on how gold is to be sold for silver. So what's going on in your hadiths? Your hadiths are contradicting themselves.
Yeah.
Now Muslims come up to Christians all the time and say, because of biblical contradiction, the Bible has been changed and the Bible can't be trusted.
All the time.
But I am showing you contradictions from your Quran. Sorry, your hadiths. And if these hadiths have contradictions in them, then by your logic, they are unreliable. But here's a dramatic difference. The point of your hadiths, Muslims, is that your hadiths are teaching you about the life and sayings of Muhammad and what Muhammad forbade. If they contradict themselves, then that means that your sunnah cannot be trusted.
Right.
And you use your sunnah to interpret your Quran. But, ladies and gentlemen, the Christian Bible doesn't work like a rule book. It teaches us works of righteousness by teaching us a portrait of Jesus. A portrait of Jesus that doesn't necessitate the absence of prima facie contradiction. And so the scriptures are reliable to the end that they are created for. But your hadiths are not sufficient for the end that yours were created for. Let me give another example. In fact, I'll stop there.
Yeah, we get it.
Any questions on that point? Any
Were the hadiths written all at the same time under one sort of supervisor or?
Good question.
What's the answer?
The hadiths were not written at the same time. They were not written with any controlling mechanism until around about 200 years after Muhammad, when a science was developed to try and remove fake from true hadiths. But the point is that that science emerged 200 years after Muhammad died, which meant that the damage was already done. Fake hadiths had already largely entered into the corpus of hadith. The corpus hadith were full of lies. And the development of the protections of hadith, would you like to come in and debate?
I wouldn't let me on camera.
Well, I mean, you can debate if you want, stand there.
I'm just trying to listen to what I'm saying.
Right, okay, so the development of the science of hadiths came from the fact, primarily from the isnad. And Muslims disagree about those isnad. Shia reject the isnad of the Sunni, and the Sunni reject the isnad of the Shia, which tells you that Muslims themselves have no reliability about which isnads to believe in. And that means since that... Sorry, are you wanting to listen or debate?
I'm trying to do both.
Okay, right, well, let's debate. What's your point?
Basically, I can technically say the same about Catholics and Protestants.
Right, whoa. That's called non sequitur logic. Let me explain what non sequitur logic is. If I spot a problem in your argument, that doesn't mean that my argument is without problem. So if I have identified a problem in your belief, you saying the same about my belief doesn't get rid of the problem in yours. And before I am willing to change topic, you must defend your belief from what I said. Because I'm not allowing you to change the topic. Muslims don't agree about their isnads. Agreed. Right. Which means that Muslims themselves cannot say to the world which hadiths are reliable without sectarian division. Right?
Yeah, but that's why I don't pay attention. I pay attention to the Quran.
But all Christians, listen to this, all Christians agree about the same 66 books of the Bible. We dispute between 5 and 7 books, which means that there's greater reliability within Christians about what to believe than amongst Muslims, because you dispute about thousands of hadiths.
We all believe in the same book.
But you use the hadiths to interpret the Quran, don't you?
No, not all the time.
Yes, you do. I'm guessing you're a Shia.
Yeah.
Right, I thought so. Right. I could tell by the neat beard.
Thank you.
Right? The Shia always look more presentable than the Sunni. Yeah, they do. Honestly, you always spot. You can all throw. I'm throwing you a compliment,
I
right?
said thank you.
Yeah, the Shia's a better groom than the Sunnis.
I can't agree with that.
Yeah.
Black shirt on,
Yeah.
look at it.
Right? But, yeah. I'm doing a Christian beard, right? we don't do that much grooming.
Goes both ways.
Anyway, bro. The point I'm making to you is, what's your name? Ahmed. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's first time in the park?
Fifth.
All right. So it's quite an excitable place.
Can tell.
Let's try to have a calm conversation. So my point to you is because the centre of hadith the centre of Quranic interpretation is the sunnah, and the sunnah is drawn from hadith because it's about what Muhammad did, what Muhammad permitted, and what Muhammad said. Right? I'm being fair to your religion, but because Muslim and the heart of what hadiths to believe in is rooted in isnad. Right? Who do you take your hadiths from? As a Shia, you reject Aisha.
I don't reject Aisha.
No, you reject.
No, we don't reject her.
No, you reject hadiths from her.
No, not really.
Yeah, you do. Right,
Me personally, I don't.
well, I'm just informing you that I know a little bit more about Shiism than you do.
Probably me.
On this, at least on this.
Yeah,
maybe not on the whole. But the point I'm making to you is that since Muslims can't agree about which isnads are reliable, it throws the whole exercise into disrepute, right? Now, I am not as familiar with Shia hadith as I am about Sunni hadith, right? Because obviously I talk to Sunnis more often than not. But I am sure that if I started familiarizing myself with hadith, I would find forgeries amongst those hadiths, contradictions amongst those hadiths.
Me personally, I don't trust hadiths.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's me personally. No disrespect to anyone that listens to them and that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, me personally, I only listen to the Quran.
Okay.
I don't trust hadiths because hadiths can be forged.
Yep.
Yeah. Same with that. Certain books can be forged. Yeah. All respecting it. Yeah. That's like, see the difference between Islam and Christianity. The books. I'm not changing topics. Yeah. Just there. I'm not changing.
We're staying on topic. Don't worry.
Yeah.